Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day wherever you're at, whenever you're watching this. We're going to be jumping into some 40k here. We're going to learn about some TECHMARINES. It's one of the things that I've been interested in, that I've never really kind of gotten into. What really are TECHMARINES? How do they integrate with both, you know, Space Marine chapters, regiments, etc.? What are their roles in both the Space Marines, you know, again, chapters, regiments, versus what is their role working with the Adeptus Mechanicus, because they seem to kind of be like an in-between the Mechanicus and Space Marines from what I understand. So I'm interested to learn about what TECHMARINES really are. So we're going to check out this video by the Remembrancer called TECHMARINES Frater Astrotechnicus. I think that's right. But yeah, links will be down below in the description as always. See the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to the Remembrancer's channel. So please do me a favor. If you enjoyed this video, go over to the channel, hit that like button, and if you enjoyed the content they put out, check out their channel, see what they got to offer, and hit that sub button. Yeah, if you'd like to join us when I do these reactions live, there's a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I offer. So if you've been around the channel for a while and decide you want to take your support to the next level, you can take a look at those and see if that would have any interest for you. But regardless, thank you guys for just taking the time out of your day to come and hang out and watch the video. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy. So let's jump into this. Again, this is TECHMARINES Frater Astrotechnicus. Yeah, I did not pronounce it earlier correctly. By the Remembrancer. So let's jump into this here and take a look.
Yours is to heed the machine, as others heed their kin. Tend to the war spirit's all about, but do so in the knowledge that you do the Emperor's duty. Without your ministrations, no bolt may be fired, and no enemy slain.
Yeah, that would be a problem.
The Emperor's angels embark upon the stars, bringing the master of mankind's wrath to the wicked. Each chapter of the vaunted Astartes Creed, armed with weapons, vehicles, and starships capable of sundering entire star systems when required. In order to maintain such a war machine, experts of a peculiar creed are required to tend to their machine spirit's needs.
Okay.
For today, we shall elucidate the technicians of the Omnissiah, a split creed of Space Marine and Tech Priest, tasked with maintaining every component which may hinder or facilitate their kinsmen's campaigns.
Interesting.
The Seraphs of Machine and Flesh, the TECHMARINES.
So they're kind of like paladins of the 40k universe, but yeah, more on the technological side. They talk to the machine spirits, you know, in that way. They're kind of warrior priests, but technological warrior priests, I guess. Maybe more akin to a cleric than a paladin. I don't know.
During the conquest of the Great Crusade, the Master of Mankind required alliances to aid his reclamation of the stars. His genius for gene-crafting soldiers of immense power, alone, insufficient to unify the stars. The Thunder Warriors of Terror and Custodians of the Golden Host, originally clad in pilfered fragments of armor suited for their needs. Without the use of sealed panoplies capable of enduring the ravages of the void and vessels to ferry them to distant stars, the Emperor's ambitions would end as soon as they had borne fruit. Yet as the embers of unification ebbed, the tech adepts of Mars pledged to serve the Master of Mankind, their acknowledgement of his stature as the avatar of their machine god, the Omnissiah, cemented as mankind embarked from the cradle of the Sol system. 20 legions would bring war to the enemies of the burgeoning Imperium, alongside untold millions of mortal soldiers. The Great Crusade of the Emperor proving to be the greatest show of force the galaxy had ever seen, as worlds aplenty were brought under compliance. Yet to facilitate this grand reclamation of the galaxy in so short a time, experts of technology would be required to repair and maintain everything, from starship propulsion systems, gene seed storage banks, and the mechanisms of a bolt gun, and thus a new creed was established. Drafting Space Marines proven to show an affinity for artifice to study upon the forge world of Mars. These so-called TECHMARINES trained on average for 30 years as they learned much of the Omnissiah's wisdom from the Mechanicus. Never truly capable of unlocking the secrets commensurate of a Magos or higher-ranked Mechanicum exemplar, nonetheless, the Frater Astrotechnicus began to understand the inner workings of the machine spirit. memorizing maintenance hymnals, rites of activation, and means to placate angered ghosts within the machine. Each tech marine returned to their legion much changed from their ordeals, often ostracized by virtue of their practice of near-religious devotions to their charges.
Right.
Amongst the most thankless callings of any creed, not just of the Adeptus Astartes, but Imperium entire. These machines.
Yeah, I was gonna say, right, like that would be kind of a weird scenario for a Space Marine, right? Like, Space Marines aren't, to my knowledge, right? There probably are some factions that might be a little more religious than others. But with their knowledge of chaos, I would assume most Space Marine, chapters wouldn't necessarily have kind of that much belief other than obviously in themselves and the Emperor. So to have, someone who is trained to become a Space Marine that then gets sent to then be trained by the Mechanicus and absorbs their beliefs and has those kind of beliefs, that would be kind of, I guess they would still technically believe in the Emperor because the Mechanicus see the Emperor as the Omnissiah. But yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. It's something I hadn't really thought of before.
Machinists sacrifice much of their humanity and the reassuring bonds of brotherhood. Cold steel, sparks of electricity, welding torches, and the smell of unguents, the materials to which these craftsmen offer as service. These often unknowable dualities of loyalty, though mistrusted by many of their creed, are regardless respected for their toil.
Right.
The end of the era of the Horus heresy, further entrenching the TECHMARINES into their superstitions made to the Omnissiah. As legions gave way to chapters, so too did these angels of the Omnissiah issue much of their heraldries, as the Codex Astartes demanded all to adopt the red hue of Mars over much of their panoplies. A mere pauldron of their chapter's heraldry remaining amongst the sea of Martian rouge, which daubed their armor. Despite their allegiance to the tech priest swelling, such individuals are notorious for their cold demeanor and lack of emotional solace. Perceiving the Astartes to which...
Yeah, that would be another thing that would probably kind of separate them too, right? Is because they would lean more towards that logical, emotionless side of things. And they're definitely, especially among like the Space Wolves, right? Any kind of chapters of them, they're very kind of emotional and, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm having a brain fart, but I guess more outgoing. That's not really the word I was looking for, but yeah. And so like when you mix in a Space Marine who has that more of a stance from the, I guess more of that emotionless to them, it might be hard for them to kind of really adapt and fit in and become really integrated with their squad, chapter, or whatever.
They mentor as little more than cogs within their machine god's great mechanism. Though bound to the will of both the Emperor and Omnissiah, the subjects of neither shall ever fully accept these scions of bipartisan ideologies.
Right.
Finding sparse camaraderie when within the company of other TECHMARINES, even of differing chapters, only within the workshops of their forges, with minimal contact with their peers, are such artificers content. Rarely ascended to positions of senior rank within their chapters due to their ties to the Mechanicus. Typically, Battle Brothers keep their TECHMARINES at arm's length, whether at ceremonies or rites, in order to preserve the purity of their cause.
Right.
Their expertise of enigmatic sciences, revered despite the innate suspicions of their kindred. TECHMARINES, though strange bedfellows, are recognized and respected greatly for their services made to their chapter. Fighting to save damaged vehicles of great renown, retrieve artifacts of humanity's lost past, and recover fallen comrades in arms to salvage their armor, weapons, and gene seed.
It's kind of interesting, right? It's very much kind of a duality nature. Again, like in general, they're Space Marines, but they have the beliefs of the Mechanicus. They're kind of kept at arm's length because they don't necessarily really fit in, but they are still greatly respected for their role and services that they provide and their ability to repair things like this dreadnought here. There's a dreadnought that was critically injured but still could be repaired. Having a tech marine around would be essential, and not having it could be the death of a great warrior and relic at the same time, you know?
These anomalies of the Space Marines have done much to preserve what remains of their tattered former glories. For the Crusades, campaigns and function of the Adeptus Astartes would prove impossible without cadres of such savants within their ranks, and as such, great pains are made to assure that such handlers are left undisturbed when administering to the many synthetics of each chapter's domains. Though their calling is primarily that of a support role in many respects, it is folly to believe that a TECHMARINE's capabilities as a warrior are in any way diminished.
Right.
Their extra appendages and tuning of their weaponry, bolstering their already impressive combat prowess. Carrying armaments both esoteric and exotic in nature, compared to typical Astartes weaponry.
See, and to me, I would think that some of these things would be integrated into a lot of, Space Marine power armor, right? Like, I mean, just having a lot of these extra appendages, that means extra weapons that you could have, other tactical systems that could be implanted. And I mean, I know there's a lot of Terminator armor out there, and there's some other, armors that can be boosted and have all kinds of attachments to them with, rocket pods and heavier weapons, etc. But I don't know, I just feel like having extra appendages that could do things, like this, you would think that even though they're not, I guess it's a scenario, right, where it's like, because they're a tech marine, they can have these extra machines attached to them because they know how to appease and communicate with the machine spirit and work with the machine spirit to get these things to function properly. And so trying to integrate these into a normal Space Marine's power armor could be considered heresy, and or would just not work because, a normal Space Marine isn't necessarily trained on how to work with and communicate with the machine spirit properly, I guess that would be kind of like the in lore reason as to why that isn't the case.
To see a TECHMARINE wielding anything as standard as a bolter with no modifications, tinkering, or tunings is practically unheard of. Finally honing their equipment to exceed the capability of standard issues. Any TECHMARINE worth their steel overcharges their plasma weapons, exceeds their bolter's rate of fire, or reinforces their armor to new heights of constitution. Anything but gaudy in appearance, utility far outweighs the flashy prospects of finery or grandeur. The first TECHMARINEs of the Legiones Astartes, clad in Mark III iron armor, which belies their need for heavy plate. Each firstborn TECHMARINE's armor designated as Artificer Quality due to the nature of its bearer's upgrades. The power needs for such suits push their power reactor's supplies to their limit, lest its bearer find creative ways to optimize their function. Often replacing their organic appendages in deference for the surety that steel provides. Such synthetic prostheses allow for deft motions without the constraint of weariness to which flesh is infamous. And
I guess that would potentially, in some of those scenarios, right, where they replace appendages with other cybernetic implants and stuff like that, would that allow their armor to integrate with them better in some scenarios, right? Because, yeah, I don't know. I just wonder if that's the case.
Directly with their machine spirits using mechanical interface modules. The most senior TECHMARINEs use ever more complicated servo harnesses, replete with myriad mechadendrites. A mobile shrine of the Omnissiah in practice, such an assortment of limbs, weapons, forging tools, and Auspex devices allows its bearer to carry a miniaturized workshop on their back to best utilize within the heart of battle.
Makes sense.
Conducting vehicle repairs, constructing defensive positions, and assisting battle brothers with supporting fire within the thick of fighting. Their neural connection directly into the nervous system of a TECHMARINE allows for instantaneous reflexes. Able to be removed after battle has subsided to allow for freer movement, some TECHMARINEs possess multiple arrangements of such harnesses to allow for myriad applications of tools for bespoke missions. Their combi superheated Physaline torch / plasma cutter, ideal for boarding missions or the excavation of dormant space hulks. Not even the embrace of Terminator armor can stave off the surgical scouring of such machinery. The most junior of TECHMARINEs, permitted with simple servo arms to enhance their strength and conduct rudimentary repairs, Anything from vibrosaws, las torches, and power drills aid their maintenance demands, depending on the sophistication of their gyro stabilizer's capabilities incorporated by their user. Capable of lifting a broken rhino if required to better treat its damaged underside or tread links, many an astonished guardsman has beheld the strength of these hulking tech savants, with no thought spared for the spectacle they create in their duties. Typically accompanied by a retinue of servitors, whether labor...
So that's interesting. Is it just because of the extra cybernetic implants that they're able to enhance their strength that greatly? Right? And if so, like, obviously it's great enough strength to where it even catches other Space Marines off guard, right? So would they not want to start integrating some more of that into like normal Space Marines to enhance their strength and capabilities?
Or combat.
I guess that's kind of what's going on with the Primaris stuff, right?
In designation. Some compartments are unreachable by TECHMARINES, and so their less imposing thralls can scrabble within such confined spaces. Their master's servo arms better suited as crude melee weapons, which grasp and hull enemies foolish enough to engage them in melee combat. Working in tandem with their armor's machine spirit to unleash multi-limbed attacks with staggering proficiency. Whether in melee combat or at range, these one-man armies analyze the weakness of their enemies and rarely fail to deliver precise kill shots. Outfitted with cybernetics beyond the scope of their kindred, not privy to the teachings of Mars, whether armed with bolt pistols, grav pistols, plasma pistols, or an array of combi weapons, one weapon is synonymous of this creed within the Adeptus Astartes. Carrying Omnissiah axes or glaives into battle as a symbol of their allegiance to the Adepts of Mars, these power weapons modified for the use of such large combatants are both a potent weapon and holy icon.
Right.
Granted only to those who have shown commensurate faith
weapon
in the Omnissiah's glory, its construction of the finest materials, using tempering methods, and fitted with field generators known only to the finest craftsmen of the legendary Forge world, are keener than even amongst the most revered power weapons. Marked with sacred equations and often bearing a sawtooth design, there is no weapon of war, which epitomizes the incarnation of the machine god to such a stylistic yet potent degree. Primaris TECHMARINES, clad in Mark 10 Tacticus power armor to encompass their larger forms. Such advancements in technologies created by Archmagos Belisarius Cawl allow for forge bolters to be fitted to their construction.
Right. So that's what I'm saying, man. Like, they could essentially kind of be like mini Terminator suits in some ways, instead of just having, you know, servo arms. Like, they could have a couple of extra arms to do whatever the repairs with, but then they could also have extra plasma cannons, some extra bolt guns, heavy bolt guns, you know, Vulcan cannons, whatever, some smaller missile launchers, melters. They could just, they just have a greater arsenal in a smaller package. You know what I mean?
The most senior of TECHMARINES, known as Masters of the Forge amongst their peers, these single most talented artificers of their kindred rival the wisdom and skill of the most senior tech priests of the Adepts of Mars. Able to identify failings of complicated machinery with the merest glance, these guardians of their chapter's most dangerous technological secrets often are the only of their creed capable of rousing resting dreadnoughts from slumber. The quintessential outcast of most Space Marine creeds, as an individual utterly devoted to the Omnissiah, though a Master of the Forge is always present amongst chapter councils, all perceive such souls as necessary heretics. Devoted to the quest for knowledge, willing to manipulate machine spirits to achieve their ambitions. With time, their entreaties to such entities become commands, without the need for reverence. Overhauling their chapter's war gear to better destroy the enemies of the Imperium, the most creative Masters of the Forge create new patterns of vehicle designs, much to the chagrin of more conservative servants of the Omnissiah. While some chapters such as the Mentors, Praetors of Orpheus, and Astral Knights treat such masters of artifice without suspicion nor misgivings by virtue of their talent, few are such creeds of the Astartes who honor such TECHMARINES with the same respect as their own chapter masters.
Makes
Preserving
sense.
arcane artifacts of their chapter, often dating back to the era of the Horus Heresy. To allow such weapons to deteriorate within their armory vaults is akin to a sin by Masters of the Forge, often wielding such armaments personally to assure they do not become damaged beyond repair. Occasionally fitted with pre-heresy weaponry known as conversion beamers, Such devastating beams of antimatter induce subatomic reactions within their targets, causing them to explode in spectacularly gory fashion.
Interesting.
Many TECHMARINES, typically rigid in their adherence to the wisdom bestowed not only by the mechanics of Mars, but also Codex Astartes of Rabute Gilliman. Some variations of such teachings are required by bespoke chapters to maintain their customs. Every member of the Chamber Militant of the Ordo Malleus, the Grey Knights, required to be a master of psychic talents by virtue of their genetic ties to the Master of Mankind himself. Such an exemplary calling requires tech savants of the greatest prowess to maintain their volatile arsenal.
Yeah, I was gonna say, right, like, how would that work for a TECHMARINE in the Grey Knights? Do they have to, I would assume they would still have to be, like, extremely capable psychers amongst themselves, too, to be able to ward off the influence of chaos, because their missions are going to take them, you know, to scenarios where they're going to have to deal with demons and heretics and, you know, stuff like that. So you then have an even greater level of what's the word I'm looking for? Necessity, I guess. That's not really what I'm looking for, but you know, you have a space marine that, you know, is now also a highly capable psyker because they're a part of the Grey Knights. Then they also have to be a TECHMARINE on top of that. So it's like, how much studying, learning, how many different things that they have to go through. And as a Grey Knight, how much does that also change their belief system between things? You know, how many different ways would they be drawn, I guess? Because, like, the Grey Knights, from what I understand, I'm still learning more about their lore, but they're like their own, like, real secret order, and they only really answer to certain aspects of the Inquisition, I think. And they're, like, extremely devout to the Emperor, you know? Their, like, allegiance to the Emperor and the, like, core beliefs of the Imperium, to my understanding, are basically unwavering. So to then have a TECHMARINE amongst them also believing in everything that the Mechanicus believe in, like, how would that really work, you know? But I mean, yeah, so then you would also have a Grey Knight with all their capabilities and all of their psyker powers and enhancements that are also then enhanced further with all the TECHMARINE capabilities and gadgets and whatnot. Like, that'd be a force to be reckoned with.
Responsible for the repair and maintenance of the war gear of these gleaming paladins, beyond the scope of even the—
Plus, they would even have greater top-of-the-line stuff always given to them because of, you know, the fact that they're Grey Knights and the fact that they basically are part of the Inquisition. They have the greatest of the greatest, you know, stuff available to them, so.
the Masters of the Forge of lesser chapters, the esoteric tools of the Sons of Titan, baffling many an Archmagos. Refusing to adorn the red of Mars upon more than a single pauldron of their armor,
Right.
these fiercely independent artificers gleam alike to their kindred against the forces of evil, and stand as among the finest exemplars of the Omniscient Creed, regardless. The Iron Hands chapter, arguably fostering the closest ties to the Mechanicus of Mars. By virtue of their special bond, the chapter eschews the need for
That makes
chaplains,
sense.
and instead fuses such a creed with that of their TECHMARINES. Known as Iron Fathers, who encompass the chapter's Council of Iron, these leaders of the Iron Temp spiritual needs preach the creed of the weakness of flesh, and have for many years forged a mantra of hate for weakness. 41 such Iron Fathers, serving amongst the Great Clan Council at present. Each has been tutored personally by esteemed senior Magoses of Mars, beyond the scope of others, who study upon the ancient Forge World. Each clan company not complete without an Iron Father to lead their endeavor. Since the days of the Horus Heresy, these vengeful sons of the Gorgon have toiled upon Medusa, receiving no rosarius from the ecclesiarchy due to their perceived heretical nature. The successors of the Iron Hands Legion, the Sons of Medusa, also bearing a unique officer rank within their chapter known as the Forge Rite. These subjects of their iron fanes form a brotherhood of TECHMARINES known as the Chamber Ferrum. considered with authority greater than any assemblage of such warriors within
Really?
any other chapter. The senior forge rites of the Chamber Ferrum bind the Sons of Medusa in cause as they conduct rites of recommissioning and Malatech exorcisms against renegades of the Omnissire's will. Iron Priests of the Space Wolves likewise choosing not to paint their armor to honor the forge world of Mars, for altogether different reasons. These taciturn engineers of Fenris use more arcane arts of technomancy when conducting their duties, bearing.
So it seems like TECHMARINES in different chapters have, I guess, different standing and different, I don't want to say allegiance, that's not necessarily the right word, but I guess loyalty, maybe different standards of loyalty to the various chapters and or the Mechanicus, because like you're saying, you know, the Space Wolves TECHMARINES here seem to be more integrated into the Space Wolves themselves, with only having a small bit of showing to any kind of like color scheme wise, painting wise, you know, any kind of small showing to the Mechanicus. Same with the Grey Knights. So I guess some TECHMARINES have more, I don't know if it's standing or just, like I said, loyalty to their chapters than their Mechanicus beliefs, and then others, and vice versa, you know?
A personalized Fenrisian-styled cog of the Mechanicus on a single pauldron. Steeped in Fenrisian superstitions, which prevent outsiders from discerning their methods, these pilots, engineers, and technicians create weapons which many within the Mechanicus deem tech heresy due to their barbaric
I would
adherence.
bet, yeah.
Considered technologically backward by the tech priests of Mars, nevertheless, the Iron Priests have managed to maintain their chapter's self-sufficiency for 10 millennia with no signs of ailing. Guarding their stockpiles of ancient Terran weaponry and schematics with ferocity emblematic of the rout.
So like in scenarios like this with the Space Wolves, right? Is it a situation where when they recruit someone new to become a TECHMARINE of the Space Wolves, do they send them to a forge world to be trained by the Mechanicus in certain ways, or do they train them themselves? Does every chapter send, you know, their TECHMARINEs to forge worlds or Mechanicus worlds to be trained and learned, or do some chapters have different means, standards, or ways of training them and kind of keep that into themselves? Because it sounds like here from what they're saying from the Space Wolves that, you know, a lot of the way they maintain and create new technologies, etc., are considered or would be considered by some of the Mechanicus to be heresy. So you would think that them sending any kind of Space Wolves to be trained by the Mechanicus would be something that the Mechanicus would frown upon, but I don't know. I don't know how that works, you know?
Their adherence to rituals, which predate their chapter, pledging worship to the gods of iron, said to reside within the volcanic islands of their homeworld's boiling sea. Initiates, making pilgrimages to the Isles of Iron, seeking to behold such gods with their own eyes.
Interesting.
Each Iron Priest who succeeds in such a trial tends to their lava forges, forever changed from their ordeal.
See, and I didn't even know that, right? Like, they have a whole other religion, essentially, to themselves, where they believe in other... Like, I would think that would be considered, in general, heresy in itself, right? Because they're essentially believing in some other kind of god, force, etc.
Crafting fine swords using iron gloves, which exert their muscle sinews to their limit. This test of the Iron Gauntlet forces such advanced to craft immense works with crude materials as a show of their expertise. Venturing to Mars to learn the ways of the Adeptus Mechanicus henceforth,
So they do.
successful candidates shall plunge their right hand into a pool of lava as a sacrifice to the Iron
Jesus.
Wolf of Fenris, and receive a bionic replacement as a sign of their standing. It is said that only 1 in 100 Iron Priest aspirants succeeds in their trials. Usually carrying Tempest hammers into battle rather than the Omnissian axes of the Mechanicus, their Hellfrost pistols, likewise unique to their chapter, fire short-range beams of sub-zero temperature energy, which
Really?
inflicts frostbite unto unprotected flesh. Each TECHMARINE of the Star Phantoms chapter, known as a Brava.
So I wonder how that would bypass, you know, like marine armor, right? Because, I mean, I think like Space Marine armor to some degree is able to ward off. I don't know if it can necessarily take like a direct blast from like a plasma weapon, right? But they're able to withstand, you know, at least some indirect, you know, damage from like plasma weapons, to my understanding, right? So like, would their ceramic, would the reverse of that, the fact that these beams do sub-zero freezing temperature, would it like be able to pierce through the armor because of how cold it is and like fracture the armor in that kind of way, you know? Interesting.
Adept, revered for their abundance of plasma and melter weaponry. To wield a combat weapon of such designs is a mark of honor for those who carry them into battle. The Emperor's Spears chapter, regarding all of its chaplains and Techmarines simply as druids. Each is clad in black ceramite and form the Druidic Council, all performing the duties of an apothecary, likely as a result of their isolation from the wider Imperium. Regarded by their kin simply as wholly teched up, adorned in totems which honor the planet of Bologna, their symbol of a cog-like halo weeping blood is also shared by the Skitarii legions of their protectorate. Yet most hated of all Techmarines are those who turn their back on both the Master of Mankind and Omnissiah.
Of course.
The Warpsmiths, fell corruptions of the teachings of Mars, who delight in the creation of fell, demonic war engines.
I guess that makes sense. I hadn't really heard of or thought about that, but I guess that would make sense that there would be some, you know, Techmarines that have been corrupted. So, okay.
Constructing Forge Fiends, Mauler Fiends, and other abominations within their soul forges of the Eye of Terror, these masters of siege warfare despoil the war machines of the Imperium for their own purposes. Allied in cause to the Dark Mechanicum in their perversions of flesh and steel, their mechamorphoses, through sorcery and tech heresy, are a blight upon the stars themselves.
Interesting.
Treating nothing of the machine god's creation with sanctity as they pillage, subjugate, and dominate machine spirits to their will. The Warpsmiths ensure the continued function of the war efforts of countless warbands of chaos in exchange for forbidden technologies. Seeking to embody the unholy fusion of man, machine, and demon into a perfect amalgamation of sinew and steel. Their despicable blendings of blasphemous arts fuel their birth factories with horrors anew to harry the stars. In order to stave off the enticements of chaos, a Techmarine must conduct piety in two faiths simultaneously.
Right.
The discipline to serve two gods
Makes
of
sense.
mankind's glory, a heavy burden to shoulder. Careful to display the sigil of their honored chapter, as well as their badge which symbolizes their successful training as a Techmarine, the Machina Opus. Each must be kept pristine to avoid angering the machine spirit of their panoply. The Machina Opus, allowing free unfettered passage through Mars's ring of iron into the heart of Mars, as well as any holdfast of the Mechanicus across the stars. Though such an honor mark bears little significance to Astartes, it is instrumental in aiding resupply with allied forge worlds. Tasked with operating everything, from war machine vehicles, battle barge propulsion systems, and untold other matters of maintenance, whilst it is the duty of a typical Astartes to ensure the cleanliness and devotions to his bolter. When all else fails, a Techmarine shall intervene to maintain order. To neglect a single instrument of the Omnissiah's creation, an act of blasphemy. From the humblest bolter round to most intricate void engine, the duties of a Techmarine are eternal, as each day brings new challenges for them to resolve.
So what happens to a Techmarine, right? Like if they work on a weapon, piece of armor, whatever, bless it, fix it, do their rights, and then it still malfunctions in battle. Like what happens to the Techmarine, right? I mean, I guess it would probably differ from chapter to chapter, but could that be like a sign of like heresy that, you know, they failed in their duties, or that maybe they intentionally corrupted something? You know, how does that work? That's a question that I'd be interested in learning about.
The tools of a Techmarine, whether Thessaline Torch, Holy Incense, or Binaric Incantation, crucial to the continued function of a Space Marine chapter. Whilst the chaplains oversee spiritual health and apothecaries tend to physical health, a Techmarine's oversight is that of a Space Marine's diligent
Mechanical health.
maintenance of their holy armaments. Working in tandem with apothecaries to maintain gene seed storage, when en route to
That
be
makes
returned
sense.
to their chapter's gene banks, their labor servitors work diligently to assure that none of such priceless organs perish to the ravages of machine failure. From vehicle pools to armories, docking clamps to torpedo launch bays, the endless toil of a TECHMARINE brings eternal contentment. Their duties, whilst often stressful, allowing constant opportunities to set right anarchy and chaos in the most mundane tasks. Compiling documents of necessary resources for their chapter masters to procure, lest their bolters run dry or power needs prove insufficient. To ignore the advisements of a TECHMARINE shall only invite doom to befall his less technologically inclined kinsman. Many TECHMARINEs held in reserve of the battle companies in order to attend to the exorbitant amount of duties which will busy them outside of combat. To lose even a single tech savant of the Astartes is a loss merely in terms of practicality. Rarely deployed to the front lines, if ever, to preserve their experience and knowledge.
I mean, yeah,
only the
makes
direst
sense.
engagements, requiring sudden application of repairs and salvage efforts, demand the attention of a TECHMARINE to the fires of war.
Like, I would assume, unless there's some kind of suspected relic or technology or something like that on a world that is kind of in the middle of a big battle, that, yeah, TECHMARINEs would be kind of held back in reserve to, like, help repair and fix and heal, you know, any kind of damage for tanks and stuff like that. They wouldn't be sitting on the front lines unless absolutely necessary or unless something went wrong.
Standing as the last line of defense during boarding actions of their enemies into their voidcraft, a single TECHMARINE is capable of awakening dreadnought defenders, combat servitors, and other countermeasures if caught unawares. Each Space Marine armory demanding a cadre of TECHMARINEs to stay within its confines should they be amply supplied with troops. These souls also comprise the majority of pilots, gunners, and drivers within the reserve companies, interfacing directly with such machines of war to enable feats of incredible speed and precision. Many a sortie of wounded Space Marines have been rescued promptly by Thunderhawk gunships, piloted by their unerring techkin. TECHMARINEs seconded to serve as part of the Chamber Militant of the Ordo Xenos, the Death Watch, an invaluable resource to such alien hunters. Those who undertake the Apocryphon Oath often have only just begun their tenure as tech savants, benefiting from a wealth of opportunity, studying both Imperial and Xenos technologies firsthand. Through understanding their enemies' technologies, Deathwatch TECHMARINEs operate incredibly complex machinery supplied and salvaged by the agents of the Inquisition. Maintaining their watch fortresses and advanced technologies within their vaults, these exotic artifacts forbidden to typical Space Marine chapters are a delight for TECHMARINEs to observe, as they seal themselves within compartments within each vault, accessible only to their own kindred. Attempting to unlock secrets of Dark Age of technology relics within the safety of such bastions far from prying eyes, inspection of among the most deadly of such artifacts is possible only with the sanction of their watch commander. Retrieving Xenos technology from their endeavors as part of the Death Watch, should it present no immediate danger. Their appointment to kill teams requires their direct planning of attack to assure their prizes are not destroyed or damaged. Returning to their chapter, imbued with knowledge which exceeds even their senior officers in terms of Xenos artifice, each shall share their findings with their brethren in order to bolster their chapter's knowledge. For to be a TECHMARINE is to experience the pain of the machine firsthand, whether human or Xenos in nature. The unity of machine and flesh, compelling them to seek understanding of the Omnissiah and Master of Mankind's will, made manifest.
So I wonder how that works, right? Like, if they find a piece of Necron technology and the TECHMARINE tries to integrate with it, like, I wonder how that would, because you would think that, like, the Necrons would have safeties, right? And you would think that any kind of TECHMARINE that would integrate with it would more than likely be a death sentence for them. Just, again, because you would think that the Necrons would have safety measures to do something like that, because they wouldn't want their technology to be able to be back engineered in some kind of way to be used against them, you know, etc. Or even the Eldar. You know, I wonder, like, how would that work if a TECHMARINE finds some kind of Xenos technology from one of these other more, I guess, technologically advanced races and tries to integrate with them? You know, would they be successful? I guess it would depend on how skilled they are for being able to navigate through the technology and integrate with the machine spirit and communicate with it and unlock it, you know, etc. But I would think something like, again, on the level of like Necron technology would be virtually impossible for them to be able to do anything with. And if they're at least knowledgeable enough to recognize that would be, you know, Necron stuff that they probably wouldn't, right? But again, another question that I'd be interested in having answered would be how would that work, you know?
For even with new breeds of Techmarines, in the form of the Primaris, promising new technological heights to ascend to, each of these scions of Mars shall apply such innovations to best aid their respective chapters' prosperity and deeds made in the name of the Imperium.
The Emperor built us to fight. With the blessing of the Omnissiah, our brothers preserve us to fight. Left to dream, we have no value. The function of servants is to obey.
It's quite the quote.
This has been a tale of the great Imperium of Man.
All right, well, yeah, there we go. That was TECHMARINES of Frater Astrotechnicus by the Remembrancer. Links will be down below in the description, as always, to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to the Remembrancer's channel, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video as much as I did, be sure to go over there, hit the like on the video, and check out the rest of his channel and the content that he puts out. And hit that sub button if you want to give him some support. Great video though, great video. TECHMARINES are something that I've been like fascinated, and I still want to learn more about. The questions that I posed, I definitely want to learn more about. You know, what happens when they integrate with Xenos technology, and they are able to essentially, you know, bypass any kind of security systems and unlock it. How does that work? Is it, you know, deemed heretical, etc.? You know, they very much seem, I guess, kind of like tech clerics, like tech battle clerics. They mostly kind of sit on the back lines trying to repair any kind of damage, bless any kind of weapons and technology to make sure things like the, you know, that work right. Again, another question is, you know, what happens to a TECHMARINE if they go through their process and a gun jams or a weapon fails or whatever? Are they blamed for it? And is there any kind of punishment for them? You know, if it happens multiple times, or do they then get deemed as like corrupt or something like that? You know, how does that work? But it sounds like, you know, they kind of have a dual nature. They, you know, obviously their alliance to the Imperium itself as a space marine, but then also their beliefs in the Mechanicum with their religion and the Omnissiah. So a lot of them are kind of kept at you know, arm's length from their chapters, but it also seems like some chapters very much have them more integrated, like the Grey Knights or the Space Wolves, and they seem to be just as varied as a lot of the chapters with the technology that they use and integrate into their chapters. I would be interested to learn more about the Space Wolves TECHMARINES, because they sound like they have a whole other, you know, third religion almost that they kind of go through. That whole you know, believing in the various other gods of metal, and that, you know, going through that gauntlet ritual and sacrificing their hand to their god Fenris, and replacing it with the cybernetic, you know, counterpart, etc. Like, that whole thing sounds fascinating, and to me, honestly, it's kind of interesting that that isn't seen as more heretical, the fact that they have a whole other kind of god belief system. Because I mean, you look at the word bearers and what happened to them, I mean, it's different, but not, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know, that just this video is very fascinating, and I definitely would like to learn more about TECHMARINES in general. But yeah, like I said, great video. So yeah, if you enjoyed it as much as I did, like I said, go to his channel, hit that like, hit that sub button. You want to show him some support. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. You know, the video here with my commentary and reaction. I greatly appreciate it. If you're still watching here through to the very end, it means a lot. I greatly appreciate you taking the time and for your support to, you know, watch the video here all the way to the end. Thank you guys for doing so. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me and the channel grow. If you'd like to take your support for my channel to the next level, There is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I offer. You can get early access videos, priority, any kind of reaction requests you might have, Discord members only channels, etc. So check all that stuff out if you know, you want to take your support to the channel to the next level. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you're having a wonderful day. We'll see you on the next one.